Okay, so the latest Tottenham team news and also a quick press conference summary from Pochettino's press conference for the Newcastle match. First, just give you a quick update on some Newcastle team news. Dwight Gale, very unlikely. That's the latest on him. Joel Linton, the forward, definitely covered from the knock he's had, and he will be available to start if needed. Certainly will be with the squad. Alan St. Maximin, he's looking like he will be available as well. He's making good progress for Newcastle. And Sean Longstaff, Steve Bruce, obviously very impressed with the 21-year-old midfielder, highly rated, was mentioned quite a lot in the transfer window. He played the last 16 minutes against Norwich, and Steve Bruce commented on how impressed he was with him. But he said he's got to he's got a responsibility to look after him after a lengthy layoff with that knee injury. So Sean Longstaff will be available. It sounded like he's unlikely to start, but you never know. But he will look like he'll feature at some point in the match. Now on to Tottenham latest team news there. Tanguy Ndombele picked up a minor thigh injury in training, and he's not going to be playing this weekend, so he's out. Dele Alli, just to confirm, he's back in training. He will be considered. Pochettino in the press conference said that they were going to give it one more training session to see whether he will be available for the squad. So there's a chance he could be in the squad. I think it's unlikely he's going to be starting if they're still wanting to see one more training session from him. But looks like there's a chance that he could be available in the squad. Now the press conference that Pochettino did, just run through some of the things, try and give you a quick summary of what was said at the press conference. And overall, Pochettino was very positive, and he talked a lot about positivity and getting the right dynamic in the team. And at times he was a little bit aggressive to one of the female reporters, and he's probably going to have to be a little bit careful because that's where he'll come under pressure in future press conferences, as people won't forget if he tries to not attack, but he was a little bit tried to make her feel a little bit uncomfortable, and I'll cover that in the notes I made about the press conference. First, he was asked about Son. He said he was very impressed with the way he's been training, obviously through his suspension. He spoke very positively about his condition and his fitness. And I suspect he will be heavily involved in the match in some form. Whether he starts or not, he didn't give away, but he was very positive about his fitness and his ability to be ready to play. Now, Lo Celso, he talked quite a lot about Lo Celso. He was asked about him, and he very much played Lo Celso down and the chances of seeing him in a starting role. He didn't actually comment and confirm, but he talked about the situation not being easy for Lo Celso with an extended holiday, coming back after the Copa America. He talked about his difficult pre-season, about really he's missing a week of pre-season. And to quote him, he said, he's training very well, but still a long way from what we expect from him. Maybe he can help the team this weekend in some way at some point, but not to expect too much from him. He talked about not giving him too much responsibility at this time, and talked about he needs to improve, he needs to adapt, and he needs to learn. So he very much played Lo Celso down, and from what he was saying, I think it's unlikely that he'll start, but I think he will feature at some point in the match. But he very much played Lo Celso down and obviously didn't want to put too much pressure on him, and really looked like he was trying to take the spotlight away from him. Now he's asked about the European transfer window, and he joked it's still open, and then he said he said, oh, it's very long, and he sort of puffed his cheeks as if he's sort of be glad to get that European transfer window out of the way. Now, he reiterated that we can only wait and see what happens. He didn't give any information at all on Eriksen, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, Rose. He just said we have to wait and see what happens. But it was very much, it's very long. So I think he feels a bit like everybody else does with the European transfer window. It's not a great position for the English clubs to be in. And he also talked a little bit about Eriksen. Now, when I say he talked a bit about Eriksen, I mean he talked round the situation. He was sort of saying lots of rumours, but stay positive. And it's amazing when Pochettino doesn't really want to talk about something, his English suddenly deteriorates and he starts talking about being positive and dynamic and all these sorts of things. So he talked a lot around it, but he didn't actually tell us anything. He was also asked about Victor Wanyama and is he leaving? He was asked direct, is he going? And he sort of seemed to honestly answer, I don't know. He had no further information on Victor Wanyama. He was asked about Vertonghen and his match fitness and that really he needs to be playing to get his fitness. And he was quite prickly, I felt, on this one. He said he will always play, never actually answered directly about Vertonghen. He never commented on him, he never spoke about him, he never mentioned his name. He did say, though, he said, I will always play whoever is the best player for the team. He said that he went on to say if he doesn't play a player, it's because someone else is better. And he was quite sort of frosty when speaking about him. So you could obviously feel that it was a bit of a sore point when he was talking about Vertonghen. And, he's quite interesting when you see his different mood. At times he's joking. At times he can almost be slightly aggressive back to the reporters. And then at other times he's you can tell he's a little bit prickly. And Vertonghen is an area that obviously just gets his back up a little bit. You feel that he's not comfortable talking about it, but he's quite almost definite. If a player's not good enough, then he won't play. If I've got a better player, they will play. And that was his stance on Vertonghen. Now, the lady reporter that I spoke about, I thought it was a little bit harsh with her. She asked about taking risks in the game and experimenting. And she referred to sort of playing Arsenal next week. And I think what she was getting was that Newcastle is a game you're expected to win. It's at home. And it should be the easier of the two games before the international break. And what she was saying was, I think, is how you're likely to play some of the players that may not have featured. And I think she was getting at Lo Celso and Vertonghen, perhaps Ben Davies and that sort of thing. And Pochettino went off on a tangent about him not being a scientist or he's not into gimmicks, and he went into a long thing about, he's a coach, a football coach, and he's not a doctor, and it almost got a little bit farcical, really. And he spent ages talking about doctors and how he respects them, but he's only a football coach. And I think, answering questions a little bit like that, I don't know whether it was the English barrier again, I don't know, but those sort of responses won't do him any favours in the future when there's perhaps times that he is under pressure and he wants a slightly easier press conference. But that was his response to that. He was also asked about the referee, Mike Dean, and he sort of said, have you spoken to Mike Dean since the last meeting with him? And he was no, I'm not going to talk about it. We're not allowed to talk about officials. We're not allowed to talk about refs that are officiating the game before the match. And again, it very much got his back up when asked about it, but he was quite clear. And I mean, he even asked one of his colleagues, I'm right in saying that we're not allowed to talk about officials. So he didn't go off on one of his tangents talking about this, that and the other. He very much, no, I don't want to talk about it, and I'm not going to talk about referees. So that was his sort of response on Mike Dean, which was very interesting. Overall, though, he was very positive. He said over the next couple of matches, obviously while the European transfer window is, he said they're going to be positive, they're going to be confident, they're going to try and create the right dynamic to win the matches. Obviously, big match coming up soon against Arsenal. And, it is obviously concerning him, that European transfer window, and he keeps referring back to it, but he does talk about remaining positive and that he expects to win. He was asked again about Man City, and the fact that you know, the reporter was very much inferring that he played a very negative game. Man City had lots of chances, and he was very defensive of the performance, and he talked about it being a good result, and it was a great result, but he wasn't going to get into a conversation about the number of shots Man City had and the number of shots Tottenham had, and you know, he basically was defending the possession statistics for Tottenham. So he was quite defensive on certain things, but overall he looked quite confident, quite positive about the Newcastle match. So we look for a good game. I'm unfortunately away again for a couple of days. I will be watching the match in full, and you know, we may do an analysis of the match if I get a chance when I get back, but certainly we'll watch the game in full. Hope you all enjoy the match. Let me know your comments on any team news, team selections below, and I always try and respond to as many comments as I can. And if you're new to the channel and you like the videos, like the channel, please click the red subscribe button, or I think there should be one just coming up to the side here. Click that, subscribe to the channel, click the bell notification, and you'll be kept up to date of all the latest uploads. Thanks very much again for watching.